What if I told you one of the most famous moments in Woodstock history came from a singer who almost never went on stage at all? A 22-year-old woman walked into the rain with nothing but an acoustic guitar, sat in a folding chair, and somehow held the attention of 500,000 people. For a moment, Melanie Safka looked like the future of music. Then the industry slowly pushed her aside. But the real story is much stranger than that. Melanie Ann Safka was born on February 3rd, 1947, in Queens, New York. Her father was Ukrainian. Her mother, Polly, was an Italian-American jazz singer who performed in local clubs. Music filled the house constantly. Billie Holiday, Bessie Smith, jazz records late at night. Melanie absorbed all of it before she was even old enough to explain why she loved music. By age 4, she was already performing in public. While most kids were learning nursery rhymes, Melanie was singing on live radio and playing a ukulele. Her mother entered her into talent contests and brought her around musicians whenever she could. Performing quickly became normal for her. When the family moved to New Jersey, Melanie started taking music more seriously. At 16, she was singing at a coffee house called The Inkwell for $20 a night. Long sets, tiny crowds, hours of folk songs with barely anyone paying attention. But those nights quietly built the performer she would later become. And here's the strange part. Even then, Melanie didn't fit anywhere. She wasn't fully folk, she wasn't rock, she definitely wasn't polished pop. At a time when singers tried to look cool and mysterious, Melanie smiled constantly and acted completely open on stage. Some people loved it instantly. Others thought she was impossible to market. After high school, her parents pushed her toward acting school in New York. But the folk clubs of Greenwich Village pulled her in instead. Night after night, she performed at places like the Bitter End, while the 1960s folk scene exploded around her. Then, pure luck changed everything. Melanie went to a Broadway building for an acting audition and accidentally ended up meeting a music publisher instead. Rather than leave, she sat down and sang. The publisher immediately saw something unique and helped her land a deal with Columbia Records in 1967. It should have been her big break. Instead, it became her first major setback. Columbia released a couple singles, including Beautiful People.
Beautiful people.
But the label had no idea what to do with her. Was she folk, pop, protest music? Nobody could decide. And when Clive Davis refused to let her record a full album, the relationship collapsed almost immediately. For most young artists, that would have ended the dream right there. But what if I told you getting rejected by Columbia was actually the best thing that ever happened to Melanie Safka? Because the next stop in her career would place her directly in the middle of one of the most legendary moments in music history. After leaving Columbia, Melanie signed with a smaller label called Buddha Records. That decision changed her entire life. At Buddha, she met producer Peter Shekarik, the man who understood her almost immediately. While other executives saw Melanie as confusing, Peter saw originality. He didn't try to turn her into another folk singer or another pop act. He let her sound like herself. That relationship quickly became personal too. On New Year's Eve in 1968, Melanie and Peter got married, and Peter would remain beside her for more than 40 years as her producer, manager, and closest creative partner. Her debut album, Born to Be, came out in late 1968. Critics didn't know what to make of it. Some loved her honesty. Others thought the mix of folk, pop, and emotional storytelling felt strange. But slowly, Melanie started building momentum overseas. Beautiful People became a modest hit in the Netherlands before most Americans even knew her name. Then came Woodstock. And honestly, nobody expected Melanie to matter there at all. The Woodstock Festival in August 1969 was packed with huge names. Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, The Who. Melanie was basically unknown in the United States. She only ended up there because Buddha Records co-founder Artie Ripp helped get her onto the lineup at the last minute. When she arrived by helicopter, she could barely process what she was seeing. Hundreds of thousands of people stretched across the hillside, mud everywhere, rain pouring down. Total chaos. And Melanie was terrified. Years later, she admitted she secretly hoped the rain would make everyone leave before her set. Instead, the exact opposite happened. The act scheduled after Ravi Shankar refused to perform in the storm. Suddenly, the nervous 22-year-old with no band was being pushed toward the stage alone. At around 11 at night, Melanie walked out carrying only her guitar and sat in a folding chair in front of nearly 500,000 people. No backup musicians, no giant production, nothing. And somehow, it worked. She performed songs like Close to It All and Beautiful People. And little by little,
I have a meeting, invite everyone. But they want to be close to it all.
the crowd completely locked in. Then something happened that changed concert history forever. Members of the Hog Farm commune started handing candles through the audience. One by one, people lit them. Suddenly, the dark hillside filled with thousands of tiny lights. Melanie later said it felt unreal, like watching herself from outside her body. That moment inspired her to write Lay Down, Candles in the Rain, the song that finally turned her into a star.
We all had caught the same disease.
Released in 1970 with the Edwin Hawkins Singers, it became a massive hit and reached number 6 on the Billboard chart. Just like that, the unknown girl from Queens became one of the breakout stars of Woodstock. But wait, because the next few years would become even crazier. Melanie wasn't just building a career anymore. She was suddenly competing with the biggest female artists in the world, and for a brief moment, she actually beat many of them. The years after Woodstock moved unbelievably fast. Between 1970 and 1973, Melanie became one of the biggest female singer-songwriters in the world, even if people today rarely talk about it that way. Her music stood out immediately because nobody else sounded like her. Look what they've done to my song. Ma mixed humor, sadness, and frustration in a way that felt completely unpredictable. The song became so respected that artists like Nina Simone and Ray Charles recorded their own versions. That almost never happened unless songwriters were taken seriously. Then came her live album Leftover Wine, recorded at Carnegie Hall. The album captured exactly why audiences connected with Melanie. She sounded human, not polished, not perfect, just emotionally real. At the same time, she was building a reputation for doing things nobody expected. In 1970, a huge event called the Powder Ridge Rock Festival was shut down by court order before it even started. Most performers stayed away. Melanie showed up anyway. And here's where it gets wild. With the festival canceled, organizers threw together a tiny homemade stage powered by Mr. Softy ice cream trucks. Seriously, ice cream trucks. Melanie climbed on stage and performed for thousands of stranded fans anyway. It perfectly matched her reputation at that point. Unpredictable, fearless, a little chaotic. That same year, she played the Isle of Wight Festival in England and received multiple standing ovations. In 1971, she performed at the very first Glastonbury Festival before it became the giant event people know today. Then Melanie made one of the boldest decisions of her career. She and Peter left Buddha Records and started their own label called Neighborhood Records. That was a risky move in the early 1970s, especially for a female artist. Record labels controlled almost everything back then: radio, distribution, promotion. Walking away could destroy a career overnight. Instead, Melanie accidentally created the biggest hit of her life. One night, she quickly wrote a playful little song called Brand New Key.
We should get together and try them out to see.
According to Melanie, it took about 15 minutes. The song sounded innocent enough. Roller skates, keys, simple melody. But radio stations immediately started arguing over whether the lyrics had hidden sexual meanings. Melanie always insisted the song was innocent, though she admitted people could interpret it however they wanted. The controversy only made listeners more curious. Suddenly, Brand New Key exploded. The song hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100.
I've been looking around a while. You got something for me.
It sold more than 3 million copies worldwide. And in 1972, Billboard named Melanie the top-selling female artist in America. Think about how insane that is for a second. A few years earlier, Columbia Records didn't even think she deserved an album. Now she was outselling some of the biggest women in music, and somehow that success became the beginning of her downfall, because critics absolutely hated that Brand New Key became her signature hit. They thought the playful roller skating song made Melanie look unserious. Almost overnight, reviewers who once praised her started dismissing her completely, and the damage would follow her for decades. After Brand New Key, Melanie looked unstoppable. She scored more hits with Ring the Living Bell and the Nickel Song, and for a short time, she became the first female artist ever to have 3 songs sitting in the Billboard Top 40 at the same time. That should have turned her into a permanent superstar. Instead, the music industry slowly turned against her. Part of the problem was timing. By the mid-1970s, music was changing fast. Rock was becoming darker and more aggressive. Critics loved artists who looked tortured and mysterious. Melanie was the complete opposite. She smiled constantly. She acted warm and open during interviews. She didn't fit the image serious rock critics wanted to celebrate. And honestly, a lot of critics simply didn't respect cheerful women. Melanie later said she believed the industry never fully accepted her because it wasn't the age of smiling women. That sounds simple, but it explains a lot. Her openness, the exact thing fans loved, became something critics used against her. Her final major American hit, Bitter Bad, arrived in 1973. After that, mainstream radio mostly stopped paying attention. But wait. This is where Melanie's story becomes very different from the typical rise and fall story. Because Melanie never actually stopped working. While the American music industry moved on, audiences in Europe stayed loyal. Countries like the Netherlands, Germany, and France continued supporting her for decades. She kept touring constantly and continued releasing albums almost non-stop. In 1976, she released Photograph through Atlantic Records. Critics praised it, the public ignored it. 2 years later came Phonogenic, Not Just Another Pretty Face. Same story. Strong songwriting, weak sales. The commercial machine had simply decided Melanie no longer mattered. And here's the frustrating part. Other artists kept proving how influential she really was. Look what they've done to my song. Ma continued getting covered by major performers around the world. Brand New Key stayed alive through radio and movies.
Look at what they done to my song. What a life, what a mean lowdown.
In 1997, the song suddenly reached a whole new audience after appearing in Boogie Nights. But the industry still treated Melanie like a forgotten relic from Woodstock. Then, completely out of nowhere, she pulled off one of the strangest comebacks of her career. In 1989, Melanie won a Primetime Emmy Award. Not for performing, not for a comeback album, for songwriting. She wrote the lyrics for The First Time I Love Forever, the theme song for the television series Beauty and the Beast, starring Linda Hamilton and Ron Perlman. Suddenly, the woman critics had spent years dismissing was holding an Emmy in her hands. But what if I told you the biggest challenge of Melanie's life still had nothing to do with fame, critics, or hit records? Because the person who helped build her entire career, the man who had been beside her since the 1960s, was about to disappear from her life forever. By the time the 1990s arrived, Melanie had already lived through multiple versions of fame. She had been the unknown folk singer, the Woodstock breakout star, the chart-topping pop artist, and then the forgotten musician critics barely mentioned anymore. But through all of it, one person stayed constant: Peter Shekarik. For more than 40 years, Peter had been far more than her husband. He produced nearly every album she made. He helped run Neighborhood Records. He toured beside her constantly. In many ways, he became the structure holding Melanie's entire creative world together. Together, they also built a musical family. Their 3 children, Layla, Jordy, and Beaujard, all became musicians themselves. Music wasn't just Melanie's career anymore. It became the center of their entire household. And despite what people assumed, Melanie never retired. She continued touring across Europe and the United States year after year. In 2004, she released Paled by Dimmer Light, proving her voice still carried the same emotional power that made audiences fall in love with her back at Woodstock. Then came another unexpected moment. In 2007, Jarvis Cocker invited Melanie to perform at his Meltdown Festival in London. Younger artists had started rediscovering her music. Critics who once dismissed her suddenly began re-evaluating her career. One newspaper even argued she deserved recognition alongside legends like Joan Baez and Johnny Mitchell. For longtime fans, that wasn't surprising at all. They believed the industry had underestimated Melanie for decades. But wait, because just as her legacy finally seemed to be getting proper recognition, tragedy hit. On October 26, 2010, Peter died suddenly from a heart attack at age 68. The loss devastated Melanie. She later described the moment she found out in painful detail. She was shopping at a Whole Foods near Nashville when police cars pulled into the parking lot. The second officers approached her. She already knew something was wrong. Peter had been beside her since she was barely 21 years old. Woodstock, Lay Down, Candles in the Rain, Brand New Key, the successful years, the difficult years.
Songs of peace, some came to sing. Roller skate, don't drive no car. Don't go to.
He had been there through all of it, and now he was gone. Most people assumed Melanie would finally step away from music after that. She didn't. In fact, continuing to perform became one of the ways she survived the grief. Her son Bojard often joined her on stage, helping carry the music forward. Melanie kept touring, kept recording, and kept writing songs even into her 70s. Then, in 2015, something unexpected happened again. Miley Cyrus invited Melanie to perform Look What They've Done to My Song, Ma, together on television. Suddenly, younger audiences who had never heard of Woodstock were discovering her music online, and Melanie loved it. Because even after decades in the business, she never became cynical. She still seemed genuinely grateful whenever new listeners found her songs. But what happened next feels almost unbelievable. At 76 years old, after more than 6 decades in music, Melanie was still recording new material when her story suddenly came to an end. In early 2024, Melanie Safka was still working in a recording studio near Nashville. Most artists from her generation had retired years earlier. Some could barely perform anymore. Melanie was preparing another album. It would have been her 32nd studio album. Think about that for a second. 32 albums across more than 6 decades. And she was still showing up to record songs at 76 years old. The project was called Secondhand Smoke, a collection of cover songs being made for Cleopatra Records. Even near the end of her life, Melanie kept moving forward the same way she always had, quietly, without drama, without farewell tours or giant comeback campaigns. Then, on January 23rd, 2024, just days before her 77th birthday, Melanie died. Her children announced the news online, saying she had passed peacefully out of this world and into the next. No official cause of death was publicly confirmed, though representatives mentioned illness. And then her family asked fans around the world to do something incredibly specific: light a candle at 10 o'clock that night. Just like Woodstock, just like that rainy night in 1969 when thousands of tiny lights appeared across the hillside while a terrified young singer sat alone on stage with her guitar. Even in death, Melanie's story circled back to that moment. And honestly, that's part of why her legacy feels so unusual today. Because Melanie Safka absolutely should have remained one of the defining names of her generation. She performed at Woodstock. She scored a #1 hit with Brand New Key.
Too fast, but I go pretty far. For somebody.
She wrote songs covered by legends like Nina Simone and Ray Charles. She became the first female artist ever to have 3 songs inside the Billboard Top 40 simultaneously. But history somehow pushed her to the side anyway. Part of that happened because she wasn't included in the original Woodstock documentary film released in 1970. That documentary helped decide which performers future generations remembered most. Melanie's absence mattered more than people realized at the time. But there was another reason too. Melanie never changed herself to fit the industry. She stayed emotional, open, cheerful, honest, even when critics mocked those qualities, even when trends changed around her, even when commercial success disappeared. And in the long run, that may be exactly why her fans stayed loyal for over 50 years. Because Melanie never sounded manufactured, she sounded human. The candle-lighting tradition at concerts, the emotional honesty in modern singer-songwriter music, the idea that vulnerability itself could hold an audience. Melanie helped shape all of that, even if her name rarely gets mentioned alongside bigger stars from the era. And maybe that's the strangest part of her story. Melanie never really fell off. The industry just stopped paying attention. Meanwhile, she kept touring 5 continents, raising a musical family, recording albums, winning awards, and performing almost until her final days. The girl who sat alone at Woodstock in the rain outlasted nearly every box the music industry tried to force her into. And that is what really happened to Melanie Safka.